Jump up, feet on a table. Jump up, feet on a table.
Epic Lloyd.
Hey, we did it. We went live on time and there were no issues.
Live
Yay.
first try.
No technical issues. Finally.
We're about to get struck by lightning.
I know. Famous last words. Hold my beer.
Yep.
Said the live chat.
Bam. Welcome, everybody. It's the Kings of Influence. We're here every Wednesday at noon. That's Ray. I'm Lloyd. We always talk about current events and whatever's going on the internet. Katie's over here on the other mic.
Hello.
And if you want to get a text from us, let you know when we're about to go live, please text the word Kings to the number 43506, and we'll let you know when we're about to go live, which is always nice. And subscribe to the channel. Welcome. Good to have you.
I didn't even turn on my light. Look at me. Look at me bad.
We got so thrown aback by the fact that technology was deciding to
look at that.
accommodate us today. Accommodate? That's not a word.
Accommodate?
Accommodate.
Accommodate. Let me tell you what happened to me this week.
Uh-oh.
So in the last week, my cat, Mr. Kitty, has been squinting, eye problems, and his eyes been draining, and so he's getting little black crust under his eyes.
Yeah.
And so we took him to the vet, and the vet was like, this is old man vet, been doing it a long time. He's like, I ain't never seen anything like this. You got to go to a cat optometrist. That's a thing, by the way,
Yeah.
a cat optometrist. So we made an appointment, went to the cat optometrist, most miserable experience of my life.
Oh, no.
Just getting the cat in the carrier and then putting the cat in the car because the cat is suffering. I'm dying. Is exactly what it wants to say.
And you love this cat.
I love pretty much all cats. So we go to the cat optometrist. Nice woman. They hold it takes two people to hold the cat physically down so that they can put eye drops in the cat's eye and examine it properly.
Yeah.
But they did it, and it looked brutal, but I'm sure it's probably as humane as it can be done because the cat fucking hates it. And my cat has herpes in his eyes.
Gross. What?
That's what I said.
Where did he get that from?
Well, his cat's been an indoor cat his whole life.
Somebody in your house has got the herpes.
I guess. So anyway, so we're immediately inquiring, what's going on? What do you mean herpes in the cat's eyes? All right, look. Most cats have some form of the herpes virus.
They do?
Yeah. A lot like humans.
The herpes.
Right. Now, it's not transferable to and from human beings. Different form, I guess. So the herpes get in the eyes and I guess the throat and some other places. And in some cats, they actually flare up, and they were flaring up in my cat.
God.
Right.
Is he gonna be all right? What did
Yeah,
they
he's
do?
gonna be fine. It's just that
Can't hang out
every
with
now
other
and then they're
cats?
gonna flare up, and of course the vet's like, yeah, just give him a pill a day for the next 2 weeks and it'll go down. And they give us these massive ass pills.
That you have to shove down their
Yeah, and me
throat?
and Kelly are like, there's no way this cat's gonna, no way. So we get home, we try to give the cat its first pill, and this cat beats the shit out of us. This cat kung fu'd us so hard. This cat was like, you are not shoving anything in my mouth. And no matter how hard, we hold him down.
Did they show you that
Crush it
technique where
up.
you have to hold their jaw down and then flick it in or whatever? That's what they took. Because I have a cat too, and we had to try to give her pills, and they the lady did it so easy. She said, "Hey, you just go like this, clunk," and she did it so fast, and we're like, "What?" Tried to do it for an hour, same thing.
Yeah,
no chance.
not happening. And when we try to crush it, put it in food, cat won't eat the food, or it'll eat around it.
Yeah.
And
Just full fingers up as it eats around.
yeah, really just. And this is not a cat. It's not a cat that's generally picky about food.
Right.
It's that he wants to make our life as miserable as possible because we put him in the car and took him to the vet. So it's been a fun experience with the cat eye herpes. That's been my week.
Cat eye herpes.
Yeah,
I mean,
Do your other cats have herpes now too?
they said probably, but she said they'll carry the virus, but it's just like in humans, it doesn't always flare up, ever.
and a herpes is
And we asked where he got it, and she said probably from the shelter where you got him from 10 years ago.
and it just never flared up until now.
That's the way herpes works, man.
I guess that's a pretty good sign that you've been taking care of him well.
Well, I thought he was like blind. He had little lesions on his eyes.
Oh,
like
they
little
like
spots.
red, like red.
No, they look like little shadows or silhouettes. And it was just like, oh man, what's going on with his eyes? He's pawing at it. His eyes are draining like crazy. He's squinting.
So if you can't get him to eat the stuff, what are you gonna do?
Wait for it to go down. But he's in a lot of discomfort.
You gotta talk to him, man.
I'm working on it, man. Trying to have a heart to heart.
You gotta talk to him. Look, this is for your own benefit, Mr. Kitty.
You know, I sat him down. I turned the chair around backwards.
Yeah.
Sat down, and he wasn't
Not
blind.
having it. Not having it.
No, he was, man. And this is the nicest cat in the world, but you cannot get anything in his mouth.
Yeah.
Hell no.
He does not consent. Yeah, my cat has one black eye, which was weird. It started to turn.
Because you told him twice.
Oh God. She's like 16. So, and then like she had this little fleck of brownness in her eye, and it just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We're like, what is this? Took her to the vet. The vet's like, I don't know. Does she bump it into stuff? We're like, no. It's like, does it look like she can't see? We're like, no, she still jumps around. He's like, yeah. Just like basically like an old person spot on her eye. Yeah. Yeah.
What you just described was actually what I was worried about. And credit to the cat optometrist, because anytime a specialist, especially in the medical field, can be definitive in their diagnosis, it is a much better experience. Like she looked him like once they held him down, she put those drops in. She looked him right in the eye. She's like, "Oh yeah, he's got eye herpes. It's fine. He's not going to die or go blind. You just need to treat it every now and then, or he'll be really uncomfortable." And it was like, "Oh God, thank God."
Yeah.
As opposed to like, well, it could be this, but if it keeps flaring up, it might be this, and bring him back. None of that. Just within 60 seconds. Oh yeah, he's got eye herpes.
That happened when we took our dog to a dog optometrist because he was pawing around and bumping into stuff. We were like, what's wrong with him? Maybe he has cataracts or whatever. Took him to a dog optometrist. Same thing. The optometrist was like, no, unfortunately, he's got retinal deterioration disease. He's going to be blind.
Ugh.
And it was hard to take, but at least we were like, oh, okay, well, thanks. Like, it was definitive and done, and it wasn't like, because you can remove cataracts from dogs. They have ways to do it, and you can actually see again. But his retinas are just basically detaching from his eye, and then he can't see. But he still gets around all right, and we know what to do with him now. I gotta like clap at him and tell him to come over here, and then he barks at you guys when you come over.
Right, because he never knows what's happening.
He smells. He can smell right, but you could never tell. His smells, like with a dog. He was a rescue. His smell ability might be lower as well. You know what I mean? It might just be a genetic thing. That's why he is so timid or whatever. But we love him anyway. You gotta love those pets, man. Take care of your pets.
Yeah, spay and neuter your pets. Take him to the cat optometrist every now and then. Have you guys heard about this new Joker movie? Because there's a little bit of controversy surrounding it. It's a good time. We can talk about it.
Yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
I've heard it's dark and kind of like a little bit too realistic. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but also great. Like I've been reading good reviews. So the director of the new Joker movie, this guy named Todd Phillips. Now, Todd Phillips directed Old School and Road Trip and the Hangover trilogy.
All those comedies?
Yeah, he's a comedy director. And he made the news a couple of times this week, maybe intentionally, maybe not. One, because apparently the new Joker movie is extremely violent, and they're worried it's going to inspire incels to go and shoot up the place.
Wow.
And he was sort of commenting on that, saying, well, why aren't people giving John Wick shit? Why are people giving the Joker movie shit? It's equally as violent. So that was one thing he said. The other thing he said he left comedy. He literally left comedy behind to do the Joker movie, which seems like a good move because the Joker movie is supposed to do really well. But he said he left comedy and he blamed it on what he called woke culture.
Oh, he was one of those guys.
Yeah. And so he's getting a lot of pushback for saying, he left comedy because woke culture. He said that comedy stars are now really worried about offending people. And so it's like hard to sort of work in that environment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not wrong.
Like even the entertainers who are good and will do it are still like, I don't want to,
Well, I
You know,
imagine as a director, it must be really difficult because if you second guess yourself in a comedy movie, or if you are trying to please everybody in a comedy movie, you're gonna make a crappy movie. And if you're the director, you're like right in the hot seat because you're supposed to be making it great, and you probably have corporate suits above you doing like screenings, and they're deciding that this word or that scene is no good, and you're like, this is a completely necessary scene for the plot of this movie. You
yeah.
can't take it out simply just because of the structure. Then they don't give him the money to reshoot it. That must be a nightmare.
Well, or he hands in a script and they looked at his script and they strip all the jokes out of it, and he's like, "Well, what kind of comedy is this?"
Yeah. I tell you what, though, I think that comedy people do horror really well. I think that there is a similarity between the type of person that likes a certain type of comedy and horror movies, like young dudes. And like if you watched Old School, you probably want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Like same sort of nerdy, geeky
Interesting.
culture. So you have a feel for it. And also there's such a fine line between comedy and horror. Like you just take one step too far in a horror and you're in comedy.
That's true.
You know what I mean? You're campy. And if you're a comedian, you understand that difference and you can see it. So you can navigate that line better. That's why I think Get Out was so good. Is because Jordan Peele is a master at comedy. And if something is like she stirs that tea a different way, or like the music is a little different, or he does something different and it becomes too campy or funny. And you have to be able to recognize that. That's why I think that comedy directors are great for horror. I bet you Adam McKay would direct a sick ass horror movie.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It could also be the relationship between both of those genre and the element of surprise, because
Yeah.
as telling jokes, there's a relationship between making someone laugh and surprising them.
Yeah.
That's what it's entirely about. That's why the rule of 3 works.
Yeah.
1, 2, 19.
Yeah.
And they laugh.
Yeah.
You surprised me. I was expecting 3. And horror obviously is based on the element of surprise as well.
Yeah. And like how to make it last without beating it to death. If you tell the same joke too many times, like you keep on making it like, oh, this guy's name is Floopy. Let's call him Floopy 13 times in 9 minutes.
Right.
Too much. If you see the horror guy 19 times in 2 minutes, he's not funny anymore. That was sort of my problem with the second half of It. Did you see the second half of It yet?
No.
Oh, well, all right. It was pretty good. But
Oh,
I don't want to spoil it for you, but
well, you could tell me
a
version of it.
For me, it was so scary at the beginning, but the movie was 3 hours long. So by the end of the 3 hours, you're sort of desensitized to this stuff. You're just like, okay, all right, what is it now? So it was still good. It was just you got desensitized because you saw the creepy stuff almost too much.
3 hours?
It was 3 hours. Like
with the Iliad?
Yeah, I know. And it was a 2-part movie. So the first movie was like 2.5. So like you're looking at 5.5 hour. What do they call that? A 2-movie combo. What do they call that?
A double feature.
Yeah. 5 hours.
Wow. I didn't know that it was one half and then the second half. I didn't know it was 2 halves. I thought it was a 1 and then a sequel.
No, it's 2 halves.
So it's like Kill Bill 1 and 2 kind of thing.
Yes.
Yikes.
That's how the original was a TV special, and they did it
Yes.
over 2 weekends.
I saw the original.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I loved it as a kid. So I think Todd Phillips is getting a lot of hate. I mean, anytime you attack woke culture,
Yeah.
The irony in it. I don't want to make comedy because you people are too sensitive. How fucking dare you call us sensitive, you prick?
I'll tell you what though, stand-up stand-up comedy is pushing back now. I went to a stand-up show last night.
Yeah.
And they're it's going the other way now. It's pushing. People don't give a shit anymore.
Wow.
And they're talking about it. And I think that's exactly what they're talking about. They're like pushing boundaries. They're pushing back. And I think that's the smartest way to do it is you do it right on the stage. You do it right in front of everybody, and you make it your set and you make it your thing. And it will make some people mad. The Bill Burr special made people mad. The Dave Chappelle special made people mad. But you're seeing that counterculture push back now because it's defending itself and it's defending what it stands for. Because some of these jokes are supposed to insult you, and what are you supposed to do? Insult people, right? You're like, don't use that word. It insults me. You're like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. So yeah, I was at a stand-up show last night, and you're just seeing it You're seeing it a lot among the minority comics. Still not like the straight white male comics. They're still like, ooh, but like, I've seen like a lot of black comics, a lot of Asian American comics. They're just pushing on, just pushing forward with what they think is funny, and they're starting to be like, okay, I get it. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to be aware of that, but I'm not going to let it affect my comedy. And the other thing that I'm seeing is traveling comics who like loop down around the South and in the Midwest, and then they come up here and they're telling the same jokes as they were down there. You could tell they've been on the road for weeks, and then they come up here and they're hitting a wall
Yeah.
because they haven't learned to navigate the difference in the audiences yet.
That was my follow up,
Yeah.
which is like, oh, you saw these comedians pushing boundaries in LA.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but the good ones did it fine.
LA is a hard place to push
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah.
For anyone out there listening.
I don't know if it was pushing boundaries, but it was comedy that was, they thought it was funny. Like this guy had a joke. Well, I don't even want to say somebody else's joke, but
What kind of stuff are they joking about that's so like edgy?
it's not so edgy. They're just not afraid to like use the word bitch or use the word or talk about things or talk about how it makes them feel to be in the position where what 2019 is. Like it's 2019 and I'm not supposed to say this. Well, I'm going to say it. Or here's what I think about this. And they're pulling it off, Again, it's minorities doing it that I saw last night. So it does change the dynamic a little bit, in terms of the male female. It was all men last night, so I would have loved to see a woman up and see what she had to say. But I saw a female comic the other night use some language. She was a black woman and she was like saying stuff, and the crowd was not reacting to that either, even though she was black. You're like, the crowd was just like, we don't like that. You know what I mean? You're like, wow, it's really, you really have to learn how to say what you want, but do it in a way that's good enough to pull off.
Was it her material or was it her?
It was her material. It was her material. And I think it was really funny. She just didn't know how to make it work.
Just wasn't winning the crowd over.
And you could hear it. Like she would drop an N-bomb and you're like, the crowd just tightened up. And I think it's because we were all white, but we were like, ugh,
I mean, because that's their word.
I know. It just didn't matter.
But yeah,
it just didn't
point
matter.
is to win the crowd over.
It's really, I think it's about the delivery and the energy and like how you come out, and it's like intangible. It has nothing to do with the words that you're saying. It's like your vibe. Are you vibing with the crowd?
It was how you were doing it, how you were saying it. And she was a Southern comic. I think she lived here, but I think she was from the South.
Yeah.
And I could see that that these jokes would have totally worked down there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would have been totally fine.
Way different. You're in the middle America, you're rewarded for, I mean, in most rooms, you're in comedy, you are rewarded for pushing boundaries. And because, and especially, it's not just that you're at a different place, it's that people are drunk.
Yeah,
and when you're drunk, you have different conversations. Yeah, I went over to this bitch's house and we were like,
Yeah.
That's a drunk conversation.
Yeah.
And if a person on the other end is also drunk, they're like, hell yeah, and they're giving you high fives. Nobody sober does that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that on a comedy special or even a sober podcast. But when you're drinking, it makes sense. And so when you're a comic, your whole job is to do what the audience responds to, make them laugh, make them holler, make them cheer, make them think, whatever. And if you pull those tactics on stage and the audience is reacting, you're like, hey, this is working.
Yeah.
Me pushing these boundaries. And so you go to some of these bars and these clubs with these full of alcoholics in the middle of the country, and they're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah.
Call her a bitch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the bitch was the word last night that I was like, wow, they're just going to say this.
I could easily see that throwing off your judgment. I could easily, if you're in 19 different rooms and you get that vibe, I can easily see it warping your thinking and you going, oh, I guess we're back to the point where we can call women bitches and that's acceptable. I could see that happening.
Yeah, it was working. You know what I mean? It was working, and there were women in the crowd. I don't know if it's a step back. I think there are some people. I think the people saying these jokes are aware of it, and ones that are working are making small, subtle changes that make it more deliverable or something. But it is interesting to see the culture in live motion having this ebb and flow with
Yeah.
what's going on, and it's really fun to watch from the bar.
Right. And then these comics who've been doing these acts for a year or two all around the country and been killing, then they get on TV and they do the same act, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's I mean, the audience's reaction is completely different because they're not drunk, they're not rewarding you for pushing those boundaries in the same way
Can't do it.
and stuff. Yeah, and you don't often when you do a show at a bar, people are there to see you. It's not this nonsense where you're like flicking through Netflix, like, I guess I'll check this out. Oh, this offends me.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. I think it's pretty rare that someone's like, oh, I've never heard of this comic. I think I'll go pay a bar and listen to them sober and then be upset that the act wasn't for me because
I
it
don't
was
think
too
that-
edgy or whatever.
I've never heard somebody come out of a live stand-up performance and be all butthurt about something.
I haven't
It's
either.
Only on like a Netflix
Right.
or some sort of a show or something. That's because you don't have. This is such a small population of people that see a show in a live stand-up club. That was the thing about the Shane Gillis thing was, I was the stand-up set that he did. You're like, all right, but the podcast thing was harder for me to listen to. I don't know, because it was broadcast in a different way.
Right, and it wasn't structured the same, and it felt casual and all
Yeah.
this stuff. I'll tell you this story about my buddy used to run an open mic. This is about 2 years ago, and he told me so he would run an open mic, and it was actually a fairly popular open mic. And one night he had something else to do for the next. He had to go travel or something, so he had to teach someone else how to run the open mic. And the comedy club selected this person, and it was I don't know her name or anything, but it was well, I don't want to describe her because that might give away who it is to anyone who's listening in that small circle. But anyway, the club hired this person and said, all right, buddy, train her to run the open mic while you're gone on the road. So he trains her, and she's like, okay, so is there, when these people are up on the open mic doing their acts, is there anything they can't talk about? And my buddy was like, they can pretty much talk about anything. Open mics can get pretty dirty because it's people testing out material on other comics, and they're going to push boundaries and stuff. And he's like, I mean, you'll know.
A lot of them suck.
Yeah, and they're awful, and their joke structure's all wrong, and it feels like a really awful rant. But he's like, you'll know. You'll be in the moment, and you'll go, oh, this is too much. Let's cut this guy's time. He's like, I don't think I've ever done that to anyone, but I imagine you would know. And she goes, okay, so I'm not going to let anyone tell any rape jokes or any trans jokes. Like, immediately she said that. And my buddy's like, okay, whoa. I have a problem with you immediately naming categories that people can't go into because, while I wouldn't tell those jokes, there might be ways that people enter that realm and they pull it off, or you're censoring them before they even get up, and pull off a great joke. So he's like, I wouldn't approach it with that mentality. Just, you'll know it when you see it. And she goes, okay, but I'm gonna cut any mic off if they tell a rape or trans joke.
Yikes! Yeah, that's too.
And he's like, ugh. So anyway, the night went on, and he sort of showed her everything, and then there was a time, because she was a comic too, so there was a time when she got up and did her, 2 or 3 minutes, and she told a rape joke.
Yeah, of course.
She told a rape
What?
joke.
Of course.
No.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'm not gonna let anybody else tell those jokes.
She's like trying to corner the market.
I guess, and I don't know what kind of, I don't know how the joke came off, or if it was just implied or whatever. But my buddy was just like, I told her, reiterated again before I left her, you don't name categories that people can go into.
You can't
just
do that.
wait for them to go into it, and if
Nothing's
it
off
feels
limits.
wrong, then pull them off stage.
It can't be off limits. Things aren't off limits. It just honestly just depends on how good you are.
Yeah.
The show I was at last night, 2 comics back to back. They both had edgy jokes, and the first guy just pulled it off, and the second guy, he was a polished comic. He was a good working comic, and he just wasn't able to pull it off that night, and you could tell. But he was good enough to be like, he didn't panic. Like if you're a comic, you've been doing it a long time, and you're doing some material and you're working it, and it's not working, you don't panic. You just go into your working material and you pull yourself out of the skid, and then you do something else. But it was interesting to see that if he had done things maybe a different way in a different order or a different energy, he would have been able to do it. It was just this very subtle thing that particular set just wasn't hitting. But you can't limit topics. You can't.
Not before someone opens their mouth, especially.
Yeah.
And especially not at an open mic where people are getting up on stage and dying, not doing very well, because they're testing out jokes and things, and you kind of need that's the thing, you kind of need to test it. You need to get up there and tell that 9/11 joke and have the audience go dead silent before you go, okay, that's not a topic I'm going to go into. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that should be, I think, your bar.
Have to. And yeah, you have to get better that way. So just to bring it back to your director guy.
Yeah, Todd
I
Phillips.
wonder what kind of movies he was being offered. Is he a writer-director, or
I think
is he a
so,
director?
Yeah. I think so. I didn't see if he was a writer or not as well, but usually these guys write as well.
Right.
Especially if he's as opinionated as this, I feel like he'd be a writer.
Well, I wonder, I haven't seen the Joker movie yet, but it's the Joker. You would hope there's some funny stuff in there. He's supposed to be the Joker, right?
I mean, it's supposed to be dark.
Dark.
It's like Scorsese style.
I don't know. I mean, I'll go see it for sure, but
it's getting good reviews.
I'm not sure. Well, Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor. He's just a great actor.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always save a movie, but it's a great start.
It helps with the Joker.
Yeah.
The Joker is completely carried by the actor that plays the Joker. Any movie that Joker's in is carried by the actor who plays the Joker.
Who's your favorite Joker?
I think Heath Ledger was the most transformative, I would say. I mean, he really, if we're stepping outside of the comic book world, he was the first actor to make the Joker sort of seem like a lunatic, like crazy in a really, really malicious way, in a bad way.
Yeah. I think I have to agree. I really like Mark Hamill in the animated series. I think that's the most accessible and the funniest.
You're right.
But I do have to. We've thought about doing the Joker in the Epic Rap Battles of History, and we may do it one day. But if we do, and I had to do it, I would be nervous. There's some weird mojo around that character.
It is. I mean, I feel like after Heath Ledger died, everyone's just like, he's the iconic Joker.
Yeah,
that's it.
People say Jack Nicholson, but I was like, I thought he was fine. I didn't think Nicholson,
not the golfer.
Yeah, I thought he was okay as the Joker. I didn't think he was that. He didn't look like the Joker. His body didn't look like the Joker to me. He was too sort of portly somehow. And he just and just superhero movies at that time were a little bit limited anyway.
Well, very. That was the first. Like, it's funny, we look back on Tim Burton's Batman now and we don't see it as dark, but that was a dark movie for that time. Superheroes hadn't really gone dark in cinema yet.
They were all colorful and not a lot of clouds and stuff.
Right. Yeah. And he was brooding, and the Joker was sinister. He wasn't like a prankster, and that was all pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Again, I know you get a lot when you say these things, you get a lot of nerds that are like, but in issue 147, yeah, we're not talking about the comics. They do a lot of shit in the comics because the comics have a lot of different authors.
Yeah.
Right. You go to a lot of different directions. You talk about in cinema or television.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where he goes from here. We'll see how that Joker movie turns out.
Supposed to be good.
All right, let's go see it after this.
Okay,
let's go on
directly. I don't even think it's out yet. not for us. So apparently, did you hear about this gender neutral Barbie? Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh when I said it, because it sounds like whenever you just say it, you're like, really? A gender neutral Barbie?
I've definitely heard of this.
Yeah, it's Creatable World.
Is that
I
it?
saw it. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Feels like a Lego.
Yeah. Yes. So it's like an androgynous doll, which, let's put this into context and say that we're already referencing dolls without genitals.
Right.
But
they have boobs.
But it's even more. Right. It's even more. So does my uncle. It's even more like androgynous than that. And Mattel puts out this doll with no obvious physical features, and you can change the hair and the clothes and make it look more boyish or more girlish or whatever, because they're trying to cater to a new market of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very corporate decision. I don't look to corporations for my like social ethics.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that they're doing something out of the goodness of their own heart. Like I think they see a market there.
Money. It's only money.
100%.
I
But
want, yeah.
oh no, but anyway, I was reading about this in Time magazine, and they tested these dolls on kids. Now these were like 8-year-old kids. And quoting Time magazine, they test these dolls on kids who identify as trans, non-binary, or gender fluid. So these are second graders who identify this way. That part stuck out the most to me.
Yeah.
Because
they're identifying at 8?
Yeah, at 8 years old. And I'm thinking, okay, so they had a photograph of these two kids, of two of the kids, right? Like playing with these dolls or whatever. And they were boys. And one of the kids had like an emo hair swoop over his eye with blonde streaks in it.
Okay.
And the other kid had almost a shaved head and a one hoop earring and was wearing a tutu.
Okay.
But they both looked styled.
Like their parents did this.
Yes, very much so. Not a single button was out of place thing.
Yeah.
And it just made me go, all right, I'm sure these kids do identify as transgender, non-binary, gender fluid, but you can't pretend like the parents didn't have some kind of influence on that.
And they don't even know what that is.
That's what I would think too.
They shouldn't even be thinking about that at this point in time. They that's too young to be doing that.
I don't think a second grader knows what gender non-binary is.
I don't think
they
so
might have
either.
a vague concept, but I don't know.
I like the idea that the kids not being pushed into doing what boys have to do.
Agreed.
Doing what girls have to do. And boys play with trucks and girls play with dolls.
Yeah.
I like that. There is something to be said for here's how the world is in a large majority of things. Here's what biology is. Here's what a spectrum is. Here you're not forced to do this, that, or the other thing, but until you have a grasp on even what you're doing, like make it simple. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, they don't understand what a spectrum is.
I get it. Yeah, totally.
No way.
I like the idea that you're like, hey kid, if you want to play with these dolls and you're a dude, like go for it. Play with these dolls. If you want to put your hair funny, do it. But at least the kids that the kids that I know that are that age are really, really creative. They can do all kinds of things.
Yeah, they're great.
Have ideas to do this, ideas to do that. You just have to balance it right. You have to make sure that's not your agenda that you're pushing on your children.
Yes. I agree.
Gosh,
the kids were 16, I would have a different opinion, but they're not.
Right.
They were 16, I'd be like, oh yeah, that kid wanted blonde streaks and his emo hair swoop.
Yeah, I mean, I know kids that wear like costumes and stuff because they want to wear it. You know what I mean? They're 5, they're 6. They're like, I want to wear these crazy shoes. Let me just leave the house in this. Like, there's a certain amount of creativity that goes along with that. You don't want to stifle, but there's also some structure in the world where you have to be able to be okay with, hey man, we're going to work today. You don't wear clown shoes to work.
Right. You don't wear your bathing suit to school.
Yeah. There's no clown shoes at work, no bathing suits at school. That's not because I'm trying to stifle your creativity. That's because there's some structure involved that keeps us from going bananas.
Right. And what it sounds to me, and maybe this didn't happen, but it sounds to me like, kid A was like, I want to wear a tutu, or kid B was like, I want to put blonde streaks in my hair. And the parent was like, great, you're gender neutral.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Can you wear a tutu to school?
And also,
are you allowed to wear a tutu to school? What do you think about this?
I mean,
yeah,
I
probably
think
not.
every school has different rules.
I don't know. My school had a dress code, and it was you can't wear shorts, you can't wear a hat. And then in the summer, you could wear shorts for like a month.
Oh, wow.
But you walk to school with a tutu, like they didn't write that down, but I'm sure you can't. You know what I'm saying?
What
Well,
if
they
you run
didn't.
pants under it?
They didn't need to. At
I
our
don't
school.
think that would have been allowed. I don't think there was any rule saying that. I just think it would have been deemed as inappropriate at the school if you wanted to wear a tutu. It would be distracting. But I
Right.
think also, but we did have dudes wear a dress. There was a kid who would wear a dress every once in a while. Nobody cared about that.
All right.
So I don't know.
But so this doll comes with short hair, long hair, skirts, pants, whatever.
Yeah,
It has like a gender neutral face.
Yeah, I think,
Cool.
and I think you can. It's sort of interchangeable.
I mean, I think that's cool just as a toy in general.
I agree.
Almost like a Mr. Potato Head, but without the Mr. I think it's interesting to teach a kid that as its own thing. I don't think it's bad to have a boy or a girl doll, but it's nice to let them, play around with it. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself, and be wrong in the future, but I do feel a little bit unease with these these 8-year-olds saying I'm gender neutral and you shall call me they and stuff, and it's like I don't fine, but I don't know if you grasp that concept quite yet.
Yeah. You don't really understand what you're asking somebody to do.
And
but
why?
What if there's a kid who's like I have different trans friends, and some of them knew when they were really young. Like a friend of mine who's now like going through transition to become male, knew that they wanted to be a boy, like pretty young, and like wanted to wear boy clothes, didn't want to wear dresses, and then the family fought back, and was like, no, you have to be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person like was kind of closeted for a
Right.
long time.
No, I mean, I think that's what Lloyd and I were saying. Like, I think it's good that you don't make your boy play with trucks and your girl play with Barbies or whatever. I think that's a little silly and dated, but for your friend may have known at a young age, and there are 10 other kids who thought that they were something and it turned out to go away because they're kids and kids say all kinds of stuff.
And
That's
if
what I'm
there's
saying.
no-
They don't have a grasp on it. In fact, your friend probably didn't have a grasp on it. It probably only had a grasp on it in retrospect. When he was able to look back and goes, oh yeah, I was having those thoughts really, really young.
Because if you don't have any definition of what a man or a woman is, how can you know what you're not? If you say as a young kid, hey, I thought I was a girl the whole time, if you don't have any definition of what that is, then you don't even know what you're defining. So if there's no clear definitions, I guess what they're pushing for is let's not make any definitions. It's like don't do birthdays anymore. We'll never know how old anyone is. If you're just like, I want to dress how I want to dress, and that's the person I'm going to be from the very beginning, and there's no definition, it's probably easier for everybody. That is just very complex and very difficult to do because those are the fringe. There's less of that than straight up the middle men and women. So to try to organize for that in a structure that in a society that works, it takes you got to be nimble about that. I mean, I know the people that I know who are, I don't think I know too many people who are trans, but I know plenty of gay people, and most of them were like high school. I knew easily.
Yeah.
In high school.
Well, that has it's a little more connected to sex drive and
Right.
Arguably when you go through puberty, there are things that you learn, and these kids they haven't gone through puberty.
Yeah.
Yet.
To be honest, I think if you want it to be easier that way, teach the kids who are really clear about, they're more classically male or female. Teach them it's okay for other people to do things different, because that's where I think a lot of the pressure is going to come from. Adults can handle that. Kids will attack things that are different than them because it's the nature of children, so
Right.
teaching those kids around them, which I think is happening. People come out in high school all the time now. You can't come out in high school when I was growing up.
No, you couldn't when I was either. And it's good. I'm glad it's getting better, but I'm not convinced that a second grader knows the difference between gender and sex.
Yeah, I'm not sure I do.
A lot of adults don't.
We got to send you to a class.
I know. A class.
A sensitivity class.
Sensitivity
You
class.
do great in there.
Oh, I would? Oh, boy.
No, like a gender and sexuality thing.
Oh, boy.
I don't know.
Do we get to have sex in there? Because, no. Do they have This is a slippery slope that I've just done.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to jump in there, and I'm like, I'm probably going to say something
Yeah.
offensive. Which means it's
Stoner
time. Means we'll transition to little Stoner Thoughts, a little game you guys can play at home if you'd like, where Lloyd and I find interesting things on the internet, and we talk about it.
That's great.
Interesting quotes.
It's almost like shower thoughts. Feel free to chime in the comments if you got a good one. We'll bring it up and talk about it.
Oh, okay. That's what we're gonna do. All right, here we go.
Stoner thoughts.
The best murder weapon would be a Tupperware lid because no one would ever find it.
It's amazing.
Yes, that's great.
Are you guys sloppy people?
No,
No,
Then why don't you find your covers?
they disappear. It's like socks.
it's a weird. Yeah, Underpants Gnomes.
What?
Underpants Gnomes.
What is that?
They steal your underwear from the laundry
Dude,
at night.
You just have a creeper on your tail.
Oh, is that what it is?
You
Is it
totally have a creeper on your
stalker.
tail. I don't lose Tupperware lids. I keep those organized in a shelf.
Like I live alone now, and I still don't know where all the lids are.
I know where all my lids are kept, but if I need a lid for a specific piece of Tupperware, it's nowhere to be found.
Oh, wow.
Even if I just saw that piece yesterday, it's somehow Underpants Gnomes got it.
Underpants Gnomes. That's definitely, you have a creepy old man living in your closet.
And Underpants Gnomes are a thing. I swear. They get your socks too.
Stoner thoughts.
Even depressed people are unsure of what to say to other depressed people.
I hate
It's
being depressed.
So true.
I was depressed one day, and it was awful. And then I was never depressed again.
You were depressed for one day?
I think so.
Get out of here. Wow.
It was like, oh, life is shitty. Can't wait till this day is over. And then the next day I was like, well, that was an awful day. Let me never do that again.
Oh, you had one bad day. You
One
weren't
bad
depressed.
day.
Even, I mean, I love that quote because, like, even if you've dealt with depression before and you meet someone or talk to someone who has it, it's like, I hope you get better.
I don't know that I've ever hung out with someone who was depressed. That's not true.
You have, you just didn't know.
I didn't know it, and
They
that
were good at
person
faking.
that person didn't tell me, but they were just really shitty. It's tough because when it's always like people are saying, "Hey, if you have some problems, reach out to me, man. I'm here for you. Reach out, reach out, reach out." And that's sort of a bullshit thing to say because people are at their worst. You don't want to be around them when they're at their worst, and that's when they need you. When you're depressed, you're awful to be around. It's like really difficult to be around. Usually you've pissed all your friends off, and then you reach out, and it's not as easy as people say on Facebook to be super supportive and positive and there for somebody when they actually need you, because you're trying to avoid that in your life.
I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Yeah, dude, you work around comics,
Yeah.
and you own a bar. You're around depressed people all the time.
Yeah.
Trust me,
Yeah.
they're just
Maybe I'm one of them.
yeah. I doubt it. I think you'd know, but like those people gravitate towards entertainment and especially comedy
Yeah. Well,
and alcohol.
Well, I do know is that I definitely separate myself from negativity as fast as I can. And if someone is and also the other thing is craziness. Because a lot of depressed folks that I've met have been on the crazier side in terms of the things that they like. It's extreme, right? So they're
Right.
in extreme states of emotion. So you extend your hand to help, but part of you is saying, God, I don't want to get wrapped up in this because what does this mean? What happens? So,
Yeah, or right, you're saying that you don't want to be brought down with them.
or all of a sudden you're getting phone calls in the middle of the night 3 times a week or things like that. It's difficult to, I think I see people say, hey, I'll help you whenever, I'm here for you all the time. But when push comes to shove, it's a very different thing than what you post on your Twitter.
Well, that goes without saying. People on social media are liars. That reminds me, I briefly dated for a couple of months a woman who was basically the person that her depressed friend would call
Yeah.
when they got depressed, and it would end up being once a week or twice a week or whatever. And sometimes it was like suicidal or
God.
something like that. Here's the kicker, though. It was her ex.
Hey.
Talk about complicated.
Yeah.
That's not healthy.
Not at all. That was the first thing I pointed out.
Was he calling her because he was depressed about their breakup?
No, they broken up I don't know, but they had broken up like 5 years before that. And I'm like,
Wow.
wait a minute, you're his, guy? Like you're his anchor? You guys broke up a long time ago. You live in different states.
Yeah.
He's moved on and has a, girlfriend he lives with, and he calls you a couple of times a week because he's depressed. You expect me not to be like, yeah, that's got to stop.
See, this is where I feel like machismo is really missing. Like machismo doesn't allow you to accept that you're depressed because it means you're weak. And if more people had that, I think we'd have less depression. I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't allow myself to be depressed. I'd be like, you weak fuck. Get the hell out of bed, you pathetic person.
It's like a stiff upper lip.
Yeah, man. Just
Oh,
shove that
God.
shit down. What's wrong with you? Get out of bed. Get those Oreos out of your hand.
As Lloyd promotes toxic masculinity.
Yep. Toxic
We should
masculinity.
shame. Oh God. Now I'm having flashbacks of that of those couple of fights that we got into before I ended it. Before I was like, that's I don't either that's got to stop or I'm not gonna be comfortable with that. I don't know if I.
She didn't
you have
take
an ex because sometimes it'd be in the middle of the night.
And you got up. You should have answered the phone.
Like
Hello?
I can't. This guy's calling you crying. Like, come on, this is super weird,
Yeah. See,
super unhealthy.
macho people don't cry.
Macho people.
I have a stoner thought that I'd like to share from the chat.
Go for
All
it.
right.
All right. If two mind readers read each other's minds, whose mind are they reading?
Whoa. Good one.
From Xavier.
They're reading the shit that they make up in their head
Right?
because psychics aren't real. Anyway,
It would be like a mirror pushing, like when you put a mirror into a mirror and you just see infinite mirrors, because you would be reading me saying, I'm reading you, reading me. It would just, I think we would all implode.
I think so. That's good. That's one power I wouldn't want to have.
Reading people's thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. it'd be
I don't
so
want to know. It's
awful.
none of my business.
Only if I can turn it off whenever I want.
Even then.
Yeah. Or like being able to see through clothes. That's only good in Beverly Hills. You go to the Midwest, you're going to see a lot of butt pimples.
Also a power I don't want.
Yeah.
I'm usually glad that people are wearing clothes.
Yeah. In general.
Right. And I'm glad I can't see what people are thinking. I think you'd be disappointed most of the time. Oh, I wonder what she's thinking. Oh, she's an idiot.
How do you think, yeah, right? How do you think it was decided that we were going to cover up certain bits of our body versus other bits? Like at first I bet it was a health thing. Like cover up your bits because you can get sand in there or bugs and
Well, I think it was a weather thing.
well that would justify covering your whole body.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning it was.
Right.
And then you realize that like, oh yeah, my animal instinct is attracted to what I believe would be the naked version of that.
But I don't think that's where it started. I don't think it came from a let's shove this attraction away because we can't control it or whatever. I feel like it must have
Not what
been.
I'm saying.
Oh, what are you saying?
No, I'm saying it started because of the weather. Because they were like, we need to wear animal skins because it's freezing.
Yes.
And you know what? I kind of like it when homegirl doesn't wear animal skins. So then it became
A present, like an advent calendar?
yeah, something like that. And then it probably became like a sign of, I don't know, wealth in our ancestral man of some sort, or a status of like, ooh, look at those furs they're
Right.
wearing. I bet they're super warm.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it definitely started to become a religious thing in some places where you're not allowed to. We need to control sex,
Yes.
essentially. So, yeah, when you see these parts, it makes you aroused. When I see but that's the other thing. I don't think that a woman seeing a man's junk is. You correct me if I'm wrong. It's not gonna make you hot.
Absolutely not. Like all the dick pics that you get.
Not
like,
arousing.
That's not. No. No, thank you.
Well,
I wonder if
it's not. Look, it's not the same for every woman on the planet.
agreed.
It's not the same.
But it's
but
not
women.
like every single time I see one, I'm like, whoa.
But
Right.
men are definitely more presentational when it comes to their attraction than women are. Sorry, in the way that they perceive attraction. Like it's all about the presentation.
Yeah.
The
Like
the
images,
physical,
what
yeah,
you see.
the image, right?
I wonder if we had to cover up our schlongs because we were attracted to each other.
I think it could also be
This
that like
fucking conversation.
in prehistoric times or whatever, like the whole purpose of people being around is to reproduce, and maybe they want to protect those organs because that's the only way we can reproduce. So if something like bad were to happen to your junk, then you couldn't reproduce anymore.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like you get some flies in there or something.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Stoner thoughts.
Gay guys are really considerate. Not only do they leave more girls for us, but they take another guy with them.
I love that it says for us.
Right.
That,
That's why they're doing it.
that was always my first argument to people who were homophobic. Was like, why do you give a shit? It doesn't even like they're not. There's no competition for you, guy. Go back to your like car with a spoiler on it and do whatever you want. What's your problem?
Because okay, do you remember when they declassified Pluto as a planet
Yeah,
and people got super upset?
yeah,
Because when you've known something your whole life and then that fact changes, a certain portion of the population gets upset. They're like, "No, that crushes my whole world," like even in a minor way.
yeah.
And so when you have things like, homosexuals getting married and these things that start to bust on your worldview, some people react negatively.
Yeah. Well, screw those people.
Pluto's still a planet.
Pluto is still a planet, damn it.
Stoner thoughts.
School is less of an education system and more of a get used to doing shit you don't have any interest in without the question for the rest of your life system.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like high school was one of the reasons why I was determined never to have a normal job and a normal boss, because I didn't hate high school. I hated getting up in the morning and going through classes and sitting through stuff every day that I didn't want to do.
I think that's good for people, to be honest. I think it's good for kids to do some version of that.
Of what?
Of being made to do something that they don't want to do that could ultimately benefit them later on in life.
Sure. For sure.
Because I mean, look, otherwise you'd have kids eating Snicker bars for breakfast.
They do have that.
I know, and it's not good. So you got to make them eat the thing that they don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
Because it's good for them. It'll benefit them, and then later on in life they can go, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
To eat a Snickers bar for breakfast, or like, yeah, it's not good to sit around all day and not have a job.
Yeah. I do think that was definitely. I always say that's the last 9-to-5 job I had was high school, literally itself as high school. But it did definitely define in me, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find a way to make it work without this. Yeah.
No, and that's good.
Yeah.
And that's good. And I think some people need it. Like they just, when they're young, they need that structure.
Sure.
So that they can get older and be like, okay, I have to go to the office 40 hours a week. Like I have to.
Yeah.
I have to pay for my kids.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people wouldn't.
Well, some kids don't, and it depends on what you learn, but
Yeah, they don't because they have shitty parents.
Yeah.
You think I would have gone to middle school if I could have gotten out of it? No,
I
I would have
would've.
stayed at home and played Mortal Kombat or something.
Really?
Yeah.
My friends were all at school. That's where I wanted to go, but I always just didn't like the school part.
Well, of course.
Stoner thoughts.
You never realize how weird some of the shit you look at on your phone is until someone sits down next to you.
Oh gosh.
It's the worst.
Someone looking over your phone. My wife does these talks across the country, and she does this exercise where she says, okay, everybody hand your phone to your neighbor and tell them what the password is. And people are like, ooh, they just get so nervous. It's such a private thing. Even handing my phone to my wife, and she handed her phone to me, there's nothing I'm hiding there, but it just feels so personal that it's crazy how fast that tool has become a part of us in that way.
We're cyborgs.
We are literally cyborgs.
We're cyborgs. It's that the technology's not in us. It's in our hand.
It's in our hand, and it's slow.
And it's slow.
I mean, compared to thinking.
Stoner
Just gonna play you off.
thoughts.
People don't really want to go back to a time when the world was simpler. They want to go back to a time when they didn't understand how complicated the world has always been. That is deep.
Whoa.
Wow.
I think that's also total bullshit. I think the world is definitely more complicated than it used to be. I think just look at technology.
Yeah.
You used to be able to fix a car with your hands. You cannot do that anymore. You have
Yeah.
to have a tool that's a tool that's a tool that has a Bluetooth wire on it. That's more complicated. You used to have food that was just food in it, and now there's chemicals and
Oh God.
powders and taste ranges and all that stuff. That is more complicated. That is a bullshit quote.
Yeah.
Whoever
I mean,
sent it in,
Nonsense.
you used to have to date whoever you could meet
right?
in person.
Sometimes it was your cousin.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah. Well, is she single?
Cousin marriage was not frowned upon. There's a couple of our presidents were married to their cousins.
It was encouraged for a long time in the royalty circles.
That
Like,
was
keep
a
it in the family.
brother sister type thing.
Yeah.
There's strong evidence to say that that's why King Tut was all messed up, is because it was from generations of boning your sister, just swimming in that stagnant DNA pool.
God.
Ugh.
Yikes.
The grossest thing about hooking up with your sister is that you don't get messed up by it for a couple of generations.
Oh, that's the grossest part?
Yeah.
Not the actual hookup?
But the grossest part is that it takes a while to see how terrible you are.
Well, I don't know. How does the sister look? I mean, was she like a 4 or is she like a 7?
Oh, God. Oh, God, no. Ray's Oklahoma's coming out.
All right. Let me tell you the story. It's not a very good story, but it'll lead into the last thing I want to talk about. I was watching a video of a guy. I wouldn't say he's my buddy, but I've spoken to him online. He makes videos. He makes like comedy stuff, and he suddenly one day made a video that was it was about 20, 30 minutes long, and he was kind of rambling on about why he had missed a few posts, because I guess he posts once or twice a week, and he had missed for a couple of weeks. And he never really got to the point, and I could see something in him that I had experienced before, that I had seen a lot of others experience before. So I reached out to him on Facebook, because we are connected on Facebook. Although I've rarely spoken to him, but I just reached out and I said, "Hey, man, are you burnt out?" And he was like, "Yeah, man. Oh my God." And he just goes on this long rant about, he's 4 years in, been doing the same stuff. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like trying to give him, advice and stuff and all my infinite influencer wisdom.
Yeah.
And, telling him to it's like, you got to hang in there, but change something. Because if you don't change something, you're never going to not be burnt out.
Right.
You gotta get some help. You gotta hire an editor, because he was sort of a one-man band.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta hire an editor or assistant editor, or take a couple of months off or something. And so that's kind of what I wanted to bring up at the end when we sort of talk about our influencer stuff.
Yeah.
Is this thing of influencer burnout, and how you can, if you read enough or if you follow enough influencers, you can see it start to have a toll on people's mental health.
Sure.
Because they'll talk about it. They'll say, "I need to take a month off because I'm having mental health problems," because they're burnt out, because they're sucked into this machine that is influencing, that can easily take 100 hours of your week, of your time, easily, with
Sure.
no problem. Now, not everyone does it that way, but when you start out, it's like you get addicted to it. And
Yeah.
you're like, I got to produce content, and I'm getting all this great feedback and all this stuff. And it becomes this beast you need to feed, or this machine you can't turn off.
The more you put out into the world, the more it just wants more. You have a channel that is not rewatching your content. They just want to watch one time. That's the difficult part about the type of content that's very frequent, is that it doesn't get any rewatches.
Like the current stuff?
yeah,
like
or just
no
the
replay value. Yeah.
yeah, and so you have to chalk up views by just stacking numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets, especially if your production value or quality is high, it's hard to replicate that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, that's why I say people have burnout. I'm like, you got to diversify.
Yeah.
Not only change, but diversify. Because if you only have one income stream, and that is ads on YouTube, or brand deals on your Instagram, or on your Twitter, or whatever,
Yeah.
you only have one way to make money. So if you can only do that to make your money, you must do that. How do you diversify if you're in that trap? Well, how are you handling your money? How are you managing your money? And I think that's a problem with people too, is that they're young and they've never even written a check before. Not that people write checks anymore, but they don't know that they can do these things, and that they can hire these people. And you know how it is to hire somebody. Sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth at first.
Yeah.
But you can't get frustrated about that. You have to understand that it's worth that investment to spend a couple days like front loading that, and like, look, I'm going to sit with this person. I'm going to do this a bunch of times, and they're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. It's not going to be me. Don't be all precious about your editing or whatever, because when it gets down the line later, that person's going to be another set of hands for you.
Oh yeah, I was explaining to this guy how an editor works because he was like, but what if they don't get how are they going to get my vision? I'm like, you're going to have to. First of all, they're never going to get 100% of the way there.
Yeah.
No one will take care of your work as good as you do. It just won't happen.
Right.
Even if they're a better editor than you, it's like the tone will be off or something. But you can get them 90% of the way there, 95 if there's really good chemistry.
Yeah.
But at some point, like it can't be worth your sanity if you're already feeling like, oh man, I gotta take some time off. And I think part of the mental health stuff comes from, ego gets wrapped up in these likes and these views and
your content too. Like, believe me, you're not all that. Like, it's been successful. You've gotten to where you are because you're successful and you're the vibe and you're the flavor. But this is, well, at least where we live, this is Los Angeles. There are nasty ass editors out there, and they do get your work. They understand exactly what you're doing. That's the best thing about an editor, a good one. They're like, yeah, I know this, because that's their job. It's like, how do you think that 9 different directors can work on the same TV show? You think Friends had the same director every single time?
Right.
No, that's their job, is to understand the vibe and to understand the guts of that show. You can't go cheap on those type of people. You have to buy. You're getting what you're paying for. But they're out there, and you have to trust. It's a trust issue.
yeah, right. And to any like young or upcoming influencer, I would say you're going to get burnout. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah,
It's a matter of when. And another question is are you going to take your ego along with it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My response is like, yeah, you know who else gets burnt out? Cops and EMTs
God.
and guys in the military and lawyers and people who are like public defendants. Everybody gets burnt out. You're a freaking social media star. Shut up and go to work.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what I'd say.
I wouldn't say that. Because I haven't been any of those jobs that you mentioned, but this is the first job I've had where it completely encompasses your life, especially if you are the brand.
Yeah, but that's on
your
you.
name is the brand, then it's sort of everywhere you go, you're at work in some capacity. And I think it starts to drive people nuts. That's why they get burnt out. It's not that they can't put in the hours, it's that they can't get away from this thing that they've built, because it's this constant beast that's like, no, we need more content.
Yeah.
You gotta keep tweeting. You gotta keep doing Instagram posts. You gotta do this shit. And I see it driving influencers crazy. Also, the entertainment industry just attracts crazy people.
Sure.
or unstable people. That's also a thing. And these two things combining are not good. I had read that a few months back, like, what platform was it? It's probably YouTube, was sort of addressing the
burnout.
Yeah, the burnout and the mental health issues that influencers are having, because it's like a real thing.
I get it. I get that it's a real thing. And I'm, maybe my comments are a little bit harsh or funny, but I think my point is sometimes people have to shift what they define as work. If you're someone who's like, I'm a workaholic, I need to go to work, I'm a workaholic, you have to change in your mind, okay, then if I can't put my phone down for 2 hours or 2 days because I don't have that strength, you have to work at that. That
Right.
needs to be part of your work day, because if you don't, you'll burn out, and then you don't work. You won't work at all. And B, tired work isn't good work. If you're doing stuff, especially creative stuff, if you're burnt out and tired, you're going to work double hard on all the things you're doing because your skills aren't as sharp. You're not as inspired. You're not
Right.
there. So you have to change what you think about and how you perceive breaks and being tired. You have to, you just have to understand that is clocking in. By taking a break, you are clocking in on your career, because if you don't, you're going to crash and burn.
Yes. That's the big threat.
Yeah.
Is that you're gonna crash and burn, and you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate everything about it.
You have to do other things too. You won't have any life experiences to pull from to be funny or interesting if all you're ever doing is vlogging, or all you're ever doing is podcasting or whatever. You won't have a cat to take to the vet. to like have a story to tell
Oh,
about.
you are missing out.
Hey, I would tell that to young improvisers all the time. The improvisers on the improv scene, when they first start in, they go into class and they're in for 2 years and they're in 9 different classes and they're taking all these workshops. They're on 6 different teams and they're out with their teams after that and they're doing parties and all that stuff. And then you start to see their work gets really campy and squishy and light and thin because they have zero life experience to
Right.
pull from in their scenes. And it's boring. They can't relate to anybody. Then you'll see some guy walk off the street who is a chef and he works in a restaurant and he just wants to do these classes as a fun thing to do. And he's brilliant
He's killing it. Yeah.
because he has all these stories to tell and stuff. So I think it's the same with social media people. Now, granted, I've never been in that position, but that's by design.
Right.
You know, we've been doing it 10 years now. So
Exactly.
I think that you have to take that into account.
But you've seen people go through that.
Oh yeah. And I've gotten caught up in it.
Yeah.
I've gotten caught up in it for sure. And I see what it does. You can never ever clock out. And I would get mad at myself because I'd start to forget things, double book things all the time. It would drive my wife crazy. I would treat things as though they weren't people that were trying to do things nice to me. I treat them as they weren't as important as this other thing that I had because it was just dominating my vision. But you got to check yourself. Bill Murray said, when you get famous, you have 2 years to be an asshole. And if you don't check yourself, you'll never go back to being normal. And I think that's such a good quote. You have to be sure. You know what does it really well is Markiplier. For a guy who's that big on his channel and that as a gamer too, which is
a gamer?
They're vicious.
Okay.
He's just a really good dude who will be like, yeah, let's go do this, or like, come over for dinner sometime, or something like that, in a very normal way. And that's why I think he's partly so successful, is because he has that piece that he's still a human.
I'll check out his stuff. But I assume he also gets burnt out.
I'm sure he does, but I think he's been successful for a long time, so he must be managing it in the right way, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that ends the podcast. Let's roll through to the chat, guys. Stick around.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, wait.
I'll do our outro. Okay,
Yeah,
here's the official.
False alarm.
Here's the official outro. Thanks for watching the Kings of Influence podcast. We're here every Wednesday at noon. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and hit the little bell. It'll tell you when we're about to upload on YouTube. You can find the podcast on everywhere, iTunes and SoundCloud and
Spotify
and all that stuff. Everywhere. So please share it and then join us in the digital Q&A right after this. We'll see you next week.
Woo! Caught you in the middle of dancing, bro.
How you did? Oh yeah, we could take these off.
Oh, look, someone in the chat telling us to be louder.
Really?
Yeah, like
Where?
We
I don't
can't be
see it.
louder. You guys need to be louder.
Mang.
Yeah, we can't get any. I mean,
I don't know how much louder I can get.
I can't
Mang.
juice it up more than that.
Are you in a factory right now, Mang? Like listening on your cell phone or something? Because that's sometimes too. People are listening, but where are they listening from?
Right.
Let me get a shout out. All right, Ellie. Is it Eli? Eli Ham.
Trucker fans, what's up, Shanna? Broke down. They broke down in Ohio. Like your truck
Wow.
broke down?
They broke down, but they're still watching the show.
Yeah, well,
That's
that is
amazing.
That's
dedication.
dedication. Man.
That is dedication.
What Shayna, as a trucker, what do you think about the whole trucker industry gonna maybe be automated soon? They're like, don't talk about it because we're frightened of this.
Probably.
I don't want to know. Hey guys, good vibes from Dallas. Thanks, Dallas. 64-bit Ulysson. Oh, wait, what?
Whew.
Trying to recover from a bad breakup after my girl cheated on me, and this podcast helps a lot. Any advice would be appreciated. Your girlfriend cheated on you?
Oh, well, move on.
Yeah, move on, I guess.
Easy for me to say, but it's the only thing you can do.
Well, they broke up. I think he's just trying to figure out like how to make himself feel better.
No, I know,
the
but
breakup.
mentally move on.
Make some changes in your life, man.
Distract yourself until you feel better.
Yeah, don't do things healthy. Don't go unhealthy. That just makes it worse. Go to try to find some friends that are
Yes.
cool to be around. Take care of yourself. Do fun stuff, and that will just attract more good vibes. And then you'll make her regret it forever.
Yeah. If you're thinking about it all the time, you're not doing enough to distract yourself. It's the only thing I can tell you to do.
Shayna says, still going to fight to keep the position because worked hard a long time to get it. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you there. Not let some robot trucks take my job.
Damn robot trucks.
Will you be using Byte?
Never even heard of that.
Vine Part 2. Most likely not.
Never heard of that.
Is it a new Vine? Is it a new app that we all need to have?
I mean, I'm still not really. What's the
Vine?
the new one? No.
TikTok?
TikTok, yeah.
And I think TikTok is even something different. It's called, we should ask Bart Baker. It's called like Gaiyu or something like that. It was bought by, I
Oh, in
think,
China. Here it's
No,
still
TikTok.
TikTok.
TikTok is
TikTok.
TikTok here.
and
yeah.
TikTok was Musically. That's what it was.
Yes.
TikTok was Musically, and it got bought.
Yes, and I thought about like checking it out, and all that, and I have some friends on it who do fine because there's no algorithms restricting growth right now, so
Right.
growth is like really easy, but it's also really really young, and it's
Yeah.
stuff that's under a minute. I don't make stuff that's under a minute.
Yeah, and it's just I can't. It's to your advice, which is very sage. Pick two and stick to them. Like I
Right,
can't, you
and learn
can't
them
do-
inside and out.
You can't do everything. Wild Pyro said, "Do we still take call-ins?" Sure. We have that number. Do we have that number? We can still have them call in?
I don't have it. Shit, I don't have it written down.
I have it.
All right,
Katie will put it in,
Katie
the,
will-
in the
will
comments.
put it
yeah.
in
I'll put it in the comments.
Call in. Let us know in the call if you want to call and do advice. Just let us know your name or a name you'd like to be referred to by and how old you are so we know how to gauge our advice.
Right.
Yeah.
And try to leave the call. It's about a minute and a half or, something like that. Not too long.
I'm 8 and I'm gender fluid and
Or you got to show your thing there. For some reason, it's hidden.
because they spam.
Yeah.
They marked
Oh.
it as spam.
Wait, what's spam?
We got it.
Oh, okay.
Do we do Reddit at all? Reddit for me is too many words. It's too much reading. I need pictures.
I read a lot. I don't visit the Reddit website,
People like it a lot. People do like it.
so I'm told.
Katie got my back. Thank you, Katie. Catherine King.
Catherine.
Yes. Thanks, Catherine.
Catherine King. Where are you from?
Catherine King of Influence.
Oh, shit. Heyo. There you go. Maybe she made that just for this.
I'm such a fan. Hey, Jillian never showed up today. Was she not
No,
coming?
she texted me. She's on
Oh,
the
okay.
road. She's on the road.
Oh, she is coming here just after the podcast.
No, next week.
Oh,
But
next.
she can do that.
Oh,
Work from-
on the road, like traveling around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you can do that work from remote. Which
Right.
is nice. Well, we should probably head going. There's
Yeah,
not
dead
too much going
chat.
on. Yeah, dead
Not,
chat.
not much
guys.
chat going
It's
on.
all good. It's all
But
good.
it's all right. That's all right. We're an hour 10 in.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next week.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in.
I guess I don't need to do that. All right. Bye, guys.